playing a team that their preference is to come right at you, to run at you, stay between the tackles if at all possible, or just at least run the ball?
No, I mean, there's no disguise as to what they're going to do. I mean, I don't think it's changed probably in Wisconsin in a long time, and that doesn't make it any easier by any means. The unique thing about college football in general is each and every week you're going to get something a bit different. And, you have to be able to do and adapt and adjust and do some things different at times too. 2 weeks ago we were at Cal, and that was a unique, different offense. You wouldn't say that this is a unique, different offense, but in the offenses that you normally play, this is a unique, different offense that is going to run the ball right at you and be a bit more of a smash mouth and do what they do.
Front, second row, Dave.
Luke, I know it's tough to play as a true freshman, but what's holding Mike Mitchell back right now? Is it just knowledge of the defense, or what's holding him back in your opinion?
No, I mean, again, sometimes those young guys, they just their opportunities are going to arise at certain times, and then just like last week, you got a situation. Do you want to really put a guy in that situation, or do you try to hold him and not know, what the future holds, as a red shirt or something like that? So there's a few guys. We had about six of those guys that we had highlighted that we were going to hold, and if we have to, we'll go ahead and put them in. But for right now, the situation hasn't arisen, hasn't really come up that we have to have him. But it's still a lot. He still takes reps with us. He still gets the best of both worlds right now, and he's willing and able, and the opportunity has to arise.
We've seen linebackers who aren't playing defensively early in their career earn their stripes on special teams. Is he a guy that you can see playing on special teams? Or is that
he's listed on basically every single one of them, but it's one of those things that coach does a really good job of. He's on top of it. If a guy's not going to have an opportunity to get reps and play some on those situations defense, and it's not just really truly play, but legitimately down at the other end, getting 1s and 2 reps, that they are actually getting a situation where they're going to get better, they're going to learn the defense, that he does a good job at trying to hold them.
Front row, Tim.
Yeah, Luke, Coach Myers has said many times this year that the depth situation at linebacker has been one of his big concerns and stuff. Will this be a true test of that this week? I mean, what's your feeling about the depth in your room there?
No, it's every week. I mean, we're developing young guys, and like I said, we got one guy with any true experience, and that's Ryan Shazier. And at points in times in most of those games, he's gone down, and we've had a true freshman go in and take his spot. So, there's definitely that. We've got a bunch of guys. We've probably got 10 guys in that room. We've got a couple guys that are walk-ons that they get a lot of reps. It doesn't matter if they're a walk-on or they're a scholarship guy. They're getting reps. They have an opportunity to get in there. And the thing that you see out of that room is there's a lot of guys that aren't there. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've had probably 5 or 6 guys that, for different reasons, aren't still in that room. So we're missing those guys that are in their 4th year. Whether they're a 4th year walk-on or their 4th year, scholarship guy. We've had a couple guys with, career-ending shoulder, career-ending head injury, career-ending heart injury. So there's a lot of different things that have put us in that situation, but we're still developing, and we got some depth issues.
And follow up on that, do linebackers look forward, though, to a week like this where they know sort of what's coming? I mean, 2 running backs had over 140 yards last week at Purdue. You understand what I'm saying?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that do, and they will. I mean, again, it's like you said, it's not as tricky as you might think, but that doesn't make it easy. Some people say, "Wow, this isn't a tough one to prepare for." Oh, yeah, it is. Everyone is tough to prepare for because sometimes you don't know, and there's different situations, and this is a unique offense in the sense that we don't see it every day. We don't see 3 tight ends on the field or 2 backs on, in a lot of the situations and the things we've done, whether we're playing our offense or any other offense we played this year. I don't think we've played against a 22. I don't think we've had a snap of 22 personnel this year on a Saturday afternoon, and we'll see plenty of it this week.
Front row, Bill.
Yeah, Joel Hale was counted on at the start of the year to be a real leader on that defensive line. How's he doing with that? How's his play been? How's his leadership been?
He's been great. I mean, Joel was one of those guys we picked out this past week. Joel's a unique individual, just like a lot of nose guards, as you know. But he's one of those guys that's not looking for a lot of credit in some different situations. He's a guy that gets subbed in for it a lot of different times. But the one thing you can say about Joel is the reason you say he's a leader is because he makes others around him better. He truly cares about others around him, and every bit as much as he cares about himself. He was more excited for those guys that got an opportunity to play last week, some of the guys from that room, than he was about himself getting an opportunity to play or sack or anything. So he brings a lot of energy, and he brings a lot of leadership in that mind.
Guys like Joel Hale and Chris Carter and guys in the interior of the line, kind of what Tim asked. I mean, how big a game is this for those guys?
That's huge. I mean, the game's won up front, and I don't care what kind of game it is, whether it's Cal where they're throwing the ball, 75% of the time, or whoever it is. But the game is won up front, and it'll be evident this week. Whether it's their offensive line or our defensive line, our offensive line or their defensive line. That's where the game's going to be won. And I know people are going to come down to making tackles and stopping big plays and things like that. But we do a great job up front, we'll be in good shape. If we don't do a great job up front, we'll have a tough time. And that doesn't mean that the back seven don't have to play as well. Those linebackers and things are every bit as part of stopping and fitting that run and being a part of that front seven. But those guys up front are where the game's won and lost.
Front row right, Austin.
Luke, there's been so much talk over the last couple of weeks about Kenny Guyton changing over the last year and a half, whether he could play at other schools now. Is it possible that you could take us back to the 2011 version of Kenny Guyton and you guys were looking at your quarterback situation and maybe why he couldn't fit in or what he wasn't doing then at that time?
Well, I've been hitting the head way too many times to go back to 2011. Maybe that's another nose guard in me, but you know what? All I can say is, obviously on the defensive side of the ball, we love seeing Kenny out there. And, whether we're playing against him and during camp, I mean, he's just a guy that has a great passion and energy. There's a lot of guys that take some different time to learn the game of football. And there's a lot of guys that take some time to figure out how important it is to them. And when they do finally make those decisions, the ability is there. And I think that's one thing that you can give complete credit to Kenny Guyton for is the guy he's got a passion for the game of football, whether he's just found it, whether he had it and it was hidden a little bit, and sometimes that when you know what you're doing, that passion shows a little bit more. When you don't have confidence in really what you're doing, it's hard to show that passion and energy, So I try and tell those guys in the linebacker room sometimes, go sit in Latin class. Go pick a Spanish class or go pick French class, and you're a guy that's really going to be intent. And you go in there and Spanish 2 or 3 and you pay attention, but you have no idea what they're saying, you're not going to pick anything up. And sometimes that's just how it happens even in football. Those guys sit in a linebacker room or a quarterback room and as things are flying by them, man, and they can't slow the game down, it can steal your passion, it can steal your energy, and it can steal your growth. And sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer to do it. And whether it's taking them longer or not, you definitely see it from them.
Second row right, Jeff.
Coach Meyer said on his radio show last week about how much he's enjoyed the work that the scout team has given this year. Your years as a coach, can you kind of put into words how important it is to get a good look in practice every week from that team, especially in a week like this where they're going from one extreme the past couple weeks, big passing teams to now a power running team. They're going to have to really kind of switch gears here.
No, it's invaluable. I mean, the unique thing is like you said, these guys will have to be in here today and really doing a good job at figuring out who they are because, they don't zone block the same way we zone block. They don't pass set the same way we pass set. And what we expect those guys to be able to do is to do exactly what the other team does. And they have to take pride in it. I mean, we say it, to every one of our groups. I mean, take pride in what you do. I don't care whether you think you're playing on Saturday or not. Take pride in what you do, and we'll be a lot better team of those guys that take pride in it. We have tailbacks that have to come in and study the steps of the way that their tailbacks take steps. They don't do them the same way we do. And when they come out there on Tuesday, if they don't take the steps the way that we expect them to take the steps, just like the Wisconsin will this week, we'll be up their rear every bit as much as we're up our guys' rear. And sometimes they take pride in that. And that's where, when they really, truly have good groups like that, guys take pride in what they do. And whether they're a walk-on, they're a scholarship guy, it doesn't matter. Everybody's pretty much treated the same and expected to have the same effort and intensity and taking pride in what they do.
Far left, Matt.
I want to ask about the Wisconsin running backs. They always seem to have 2, 3, and they're, have the depth again. White, you've seen before, but what does Gordon bring to the table? What jumps out on tape as you study him, and what makes him dangerous?
You know what? I mean, to be honest with you, they're both very good. But I think you see a little bit more. Gordon, you've seen in the past, he was more of just a jet sweep guy. He was a guy that they'd put in maybe as their second and third tailback. But they got, the speed combined with the ability, to break tackles is something that you don't always see. Some guys you got, in the past they've had a Ron Dane or one of those guys that's 250 pounds and a big bruiser downhill. In the past now with Monte Ball and a couple of these guys, they've got guys that they both have it both. They've got guys that are slashing, they got speed, ability, but they also can run in between the tackles and be physical. So, obviously they do a good job at figuring out what it is they're looking for, recruit to it, and then develop it. And it's no coincidence that year in and year out they got some really good guys doing exactly what they expect them to do.
Last couple questions, because we've got Coach Meyer on the way, Doug, and then Tim.
Luke, how much does the offense then look pretty much the same for Wisconsin as it did under Brett Bielema, or is it, how has it changed a little bit?
If you turn on, there's not a ton of differences. And I don't know if that was completely by design. I mean, that's probably good coaching to realize when you come in and evaluate what you do have in the program that you're taking over and in the situation in which you're taking over it. You got to give them a lot of credit. I think last year at the beginning of the year, Wisconsin in the first 3 or 4 games maybe were 1-2, and they were throwing the ball maybe 50% of the time. And then they switched back after 2 or 3 games last year and went back to Wisconsin football. And I'm sure it didn't take long for Coach to figure that out when he came in there and, took over a program that was in good shape to figure out they're going to do what they do well. So there's not a whole lot of changes.
A little different topic, but there are a couple guys on this team, whether it's Darryl Baldwin, Chase Ferris, Billy Price, who have started on defense, moved to offense, or vice versa with guys on the line. At this level, is that hard to do, not that hard to do, for guys to switch from one side of the ball to the other side of the ball, specifically on the 2 lines?
No, I mean, I think it might be a little bit easier to switch over to the defensive side of the ball just with, just with the knowledge of what you have to learn maybe. But the reality is it's all these guys have ability. They came here for a reason, whether we recruited them or they walked on. They still have ability. And to really find where your heart is, where your passion is, you just have a chance to play a little bit better. Just like we talked about, how can you learn a game? Well, if you don't have a passion and pride and love for the game, it's really hard to learn. And once you do, you got a chance to learn it, whether it's offensive line or defensive line. But the reality is you got to see that light sometimes. You have to have those opportunities. And in those situations, you see like a guy like Chase Ferris have an opportunity to come over to defense. Well, maybe he was growing and wasn't thriving as much on offense, but now all of a sudden, there's a real opportunity. There's a light shining down. It gives them a little bit more of that passion and energy, and you can see them grow. So it's either way. I mean, they can do it, but the reality is it's what's deep down in their heart. It's just like when we recruit a kid and we say, well, what position are you going to play? Well, when you get here, a lot of times you'll figure it out, where your heart is and where your mind is, and where you're going to have a better chance to play, because that's where your passion and energy are going to be at.
Last question, Tim, and I'm going to go get Coach Meyer.
Yeah, Coach Fickell, talk about Jared Eberderis, their wide receiver. He always seems to be able to get open, make the big catch. What do you see? What stands out about him on video when you watch these guys? He's a gamer. I'm sure he practices the same way. I mean, here's a guy that whether they're asking him to crack, in 22 personnel and get himself in the box and crack the linebacker or the safety moving down in there, or the chance to have a guy that's going to go take a shot on him. I mean, when there's one wide out there, a lot of times there's only one guy that's got a chance to sometimes to throw the ball up to. But I think that obviously they've had confidence in him. This will be his 3rd year that you can be that. He's that guy. And when you develop confidence, and when a guy, the coaches and everybody's got confidence in somebody, they give them opportunities. And that's what I think you really see. Not that Wisconsin always does that, but when people are going to load the box and play a lot of single coverage out there, and you got a lot of confidence in the guy you got out there, why not take some shots at him? And you've seen him do it for the last 2 or 3 years, and they'll continue to do it. But I'm sure it's not just because of what he ran a 40-yard dash in or why they recruited him, but for the things he's shown and the unselfishness to block really, really well, which then gives him an opportunity to have a chance to get open on some of them deep shots.